Good evening. I'm Paul Kamleben, and it's my pleasure to welcome everyone to what will be a most interesting and informative event, even in this constrained format. It's particularly pleasing for the Trust to be hosting another Schools Improvement Initiative and 100 Up Project event. The first one was back in November 2013, when Dr. John Clark first told us about what were then relatively new but clearly promising programs. Then in 2014, we had a fundraising event at the Chelsea Flower Show, which was a great success and demonstrated that the programs clearly resonated with the UK alumni. Dr. Clark was here again in 2015, and last year, Dr. Patty Silbert was in London to bring us up to date on the Schools Improvement Initiative. On that occasion, we did not hear about the 100 Up project, as it was already being run separately, but that will be remedied this evening. One of the few advantages of this format is that, technology willing, we will be able to expand the number of Cape Town participants, and we expect to have 5 in total, including the leaders of the programs, a school principal, and a student. We will begin with the Schools Improvement Initiative and then turn to the 100 Up project. At the end of the presentations, there will be an opportunity for Q&A. Please submit your questions using the question function, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen. You can type your question in there. You will not see it, but we will, and we will get to as many as we can in the course of the presentation. Turning now to the Schools Improvement Initiative and introducing Dr. Patty Silbert, a UCT grad herself and the project manager of the initiative. She will start the presentation. Then Tembeka Mzozoyana, a UCT social science grad who is the coordinator of the SII Wellness Center, will speak about her work there. She will be followed by Fadila Cooper, who is the principal of the Center of Science and Technology, COSAT, in Khayelitsha. COSAT is one of SSI's partner secondary schools. The principal will speak about the value of the center to the school. COSAT is an extraordinary success story for which Fadila Cooper has been widely and rightly acclaimed, and we're very fortunate to have her here with us tonight. Over to you now, Patty.
Thanks, Paul. Good evening, colleagues and friends, and thank you for joining us and for the opportunity for us to share our work with you. As Paul suggested, I'm going to be introducing the SII to you, speaking a little bit about our objectives, then speaking about our recent highlights and successes, and then discussing briefly the ways in which we've adapted the SII interventions to address the needs that have surfaced during the COVID-19 pandemic. I will touch on the biopsychosocial focus of our work, at which point Tembeka Mzozoyana, the SII social worker, will take over. She'll speak a little more about the Wellness Center, to be followed by Fadila Cooper, who'll speak a little bit about the impact and value of the interventions at her school. So to begin, the SII was launched in 2012 as one of the university's strategic initiatives. As one of the social responsiveness initiatives, the SII helps position UCT as an anchor in society. This aligns with UCT's Vision 2030, which asks of the university to forge closer links with the community. And this is exactly what the SII attempts to do. The partner schools are all, except for one, located in the community of Khayelitsha, home to about 500,000 people, about 55% of whom live in informal settlements. Our approach in the SII is very much an integrated whole school development approach, by which we mean we focus on school leadership and management, on teacher professional development, and on learner well-being. We believe very much that for any intervention to be managed, to be sustained effectively within the school, we need to have a robust leadership and organizational core. And it is for that reason that we value our work with the school principals and managers very much. At the heart of everything we do is the learner in the classroom. And it is for this reason that we focus our work on teacher professional development. But we need to always remember that the classroom is located within a school. And for this reason, we always have to focus on organizational development and capacity building. Similarly, the school resides within an education district, and it is always the case that we privilege and work very closely with our colleagues in the Metro East Education District, which is the district that governs and oversees our Khayelitsha schools. And then, of course, the whole system of the school is nested within the community. And it is always the case that we seek partnerships and strong collaborations with non-government organizations within the community. And Tembeka will talk a little bit more about that. Here are examples of 5 of our partner schools, the upper 2 being secondary schools and the 3 at the bottom being our primary school partners. Our first objective focuses on teacher professional development and leadership development. And here we work very, very closely with our colleagues in the schools development unit, which is where the SRI is located, particularly through encouraging our teachers to participate in university approved short courses and 2-year advanced certificates in teaching qualifications. This type of professional development, we believe, in tandem with classroom-based support, is what helps to equip and capacitate teachers to improve their teaching. I'm going to speak about objectives 2 and 3 together because both of these objectives speak to the very significant work that's done by our students at UCT. So here we see in these slides pictures of speech language therapy students and occupational therapy students engaging with our learners through their professional practice. In addition, we have a number of social work students each year supervised by Tembi. We have students from the School of Education, from the School of Architecture, from the School of Drama. We have our information systems honor students, and this collaboration is operationalized through the UCT Knowledge Co-op. And then, of course, we have our health science students. Now, in this particular objective, all of these interventions are part of credit-bearing courses that the students must complete in order to qualify for their degree. Linked to this is student service learning. I'm going to highlight 2 examples here. Siafunda is the example in which our medical students have been engaging over the last year with grade 10 and 11 learners from 2 of our secondary schools. They've had to transform their entire program to suit an online context due to COVID-19, which I'll speak about in a minute. Teach Out is another very important student volunteerism organization which works at the level of language and maths in grade 8 and 9. Our last objective is the external partnerships. Here we absolutely value the work being done by our partners in the community, without whom we would not be able to do the work that we do. For example, the establishment of libraries, and here we acknowledge the Bookery and Rotary, and of course all the government, non-government organizations that we partner with to operationalize the school's wellness center. Moving on to our highlights and successes. At the end of 2019, in the National Senior Certificate Exit Level Matric exams, Usasazo, our partner school, was ranked number 1 out of all 20 schools, and COSAT was ranked number 3 in Khayelitsha. It's significant to note in this slide that Usasazo was awarded the overall improvement in academic performance at grade 9 level at the language and maths level. Now, the point about this achievement is all the other schools in this particular cohort are located in more resourced advantaged communities. The other point here is that Teach Out, the very organized student volunteer organization I mentioned earlier, actually focused their intervention on grade 9 language and maths. Another achievement by Patrick Barnes, the principal of Usasazo, was the Metropolitan East Education District Award for excellence in the National Senior Certificate examinations. This is a very prestigious award that Mr. Barnes won for his school. Just to point out, from 2015, Usasazo was ranked number 6 in Khayelitsha and then moved in 2019 to number 1. Umangaliso Primary, one of our primary schools, was awarded the overall improvement in the province in grade 3 and 6 systemic tests. And just to note, the systemic tests are also conducted within the school's development unit. At a national level, the SII has played an important role in contributing demonstrated best practice to the nature of partnerships, what it means to partner in differential school contexts between university schools and communities. We co-hosted the symposium, of which there were over 100 participants and 9 higher education institutions. At an international level, we have a growing and strengthening collaboration with Texas A&M University. Here we see them donating 2 robotic kits to Mrs. Fadila Cooper at COSAT and to Tembeka Zozoyana. They had over 30 faculty, staff and students visiting us in March just prior to lockdown. The ways in which we have had to adapt our work to the COVID-19 context has been really quite significant, and I would like to point out a few. We have been involved through Karen Misrol, our Health and Community Development Coordinator, and Nomfundo Mfobo, in the development of grade R parent-assisted home-based activities. Here the learners are encouraged to do daily activities at home if they're not going to be at school. Our colleagues in the Schools Development Unit have run a series of digital literacy workshops, as well as other forms of teacher professional support, such as language workshops, a very successful one being run yesterday, in fact, in 4 of our primary schools. Siafunda, the program I mentioned earlier, has shifted their entire program online with the formation of 11 WhatsApp groups, with 3 learners at COSAT being assigned to each WhatsApp group. The tutors upload videos for the learners to view on a Saturday morning using the school's network, and throughout the course of the week, the grade 12s have access to the tutors. The occupational and speech language therapy students have been doing their professional practice off-site, but more recently they've returned to site, conducting very, very exciting COVID-19 specific projects. And then Tembi will speak a little more about the social work students who have conducted telephonic consultations with the learners. And this brings me to the very strong focus and shift towards biopsychosocial support, which has been ever more critical during the COVID-19 pandemic. In this slide, we see one of the occupational therapy students taken just a week ago, teaching the learners at Inshailelo Primary COVID-19 safe exercises, dances, and activities. And then a very significant intervention I'd like to mention is my South African pandemic story. And here I'd like to really very deeply express gratitude and acknowledgement to Dr. Gilbert Kleiman, world expert on large-scale situational crises and medical director, psychiatrist and psychoanalyst of the Children's Psychological Health Center in San Francisco. Jennifer Davids, psychoanalyst in London, and the director of the African projects of the same organization, has assisted and supported us in the development of 2 of the 3 activity guides. We're very excited to have rolled out 460 of these workbooks in 2 of our partner schools and are gearing up for a rollout of another 800 workbooks in the next 2 weeks. Here we see in this slide a recent photograph of our grade 9 learners at Usasazo participating in the activities of the workbook. And this brings me finally to the last slide at this point, which is the extension of our work in an additional 3 primary schools. So colleagues, what we have in our primary schools is being scaled up to an additional 3 primary schools and is based on the same whole school development model as illustrated earlier. We're very excited to be working in these 3 additional schools, as all 3 of them are feeder schools to Usasazo Secondary School. So before ending, I'd like to make the point that we believe that an education system has the responsibility to improve the quality of learning and to narrow the gap in performance between those learners who are in privileged schools and those learners who are in under-resourced, vulnerable schools. Both of these imperatives require that we support the mental health and well-being of our youth. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to Thembi, who's going to speak a little bit more about the School's Wellness Centre.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Thembi Zoyana, or Thembi, and I am the SRI social worker at the 5 schools that Patty has mentioned and soon to be additional 3 schools. So as the coordinator of the School's Wellness Centre, the work of the School's Wellness Centre stands on 3 legs, and that is physical well-being, psychosocial well-being, and personal and interpersonal well-being. At the heart of the interventions is psychosocial well-being for the learners, because it is often in psychosocial interventions, one-on-one interventions, group work, that we actually find what the learners actually need, and we get in-depth information of how the interventions within the School's Wellness Centre should be structured. With that, we also have quite a lot of teacher involvement and parental involvement, and this is quite critical to our work because teachers and parents are a very strong influence to the learners themselves. So those parents is where the learners are most of the time. And then obviously teachers know the learners quite well, and often they know what they're struggling with. So we really, really work very closely with teachers and parents, or aim to work very closely with teachers and parents. And then also included, as Patty mentioned, are the community organizations, because what often happens is that outside of the school community, the idea of psychosocial intervention or biopsychosocial intervention is something that actually has to have buy-in in the context of Khayelitsha. There's a lot of work to make the school community understand the importance of attending to a learner with psychosocial intervention. So we use community organizations to link learners and parents to outside resources outside the school community, and also just to normalize the idea of mental health and mental health resources within the community. Next slide, Lou. So with regards to psychosocial well-being itself, psychosocial well-being works with individuals. So we work with one-on-one counseling. We also do a lot of group work, and group work can be in the form of focus groups, but we also work in the libraries at the schools. All the schools that we work in have libraries. And the advantage of working with libraries, and when I say group work, I mean the whole class. And the advantage of that is the libraries and the books in the libraries often tell stories of the lived realities of learners, adolescents, life lessons. And a lot of the time, learners can usually identify with the characters in the book and the struggles that they face. So apart from literacy, the idea of using libraries is it's a platform to have conversations around psychosocial challenges and normalizing the idea that everybody goes through this. And this is a very, very important, especially with adolescents, in having these communications and these conversations freely available with them. We also use UCT students quite a lot, as Patty mentioned, because of just the vast majority of the need within the context. And UCT students play a vital role in being able to expand how far we can reach with regards to the learners. Metro East Education District is an important component of the work that we do. And Patty again mentioned this in her presentation around working with district officials who are the bodies that govern how schools function. So working with them quite closely, the work is really married into the policies and legislations that they offer or they are mandated by. And a lot of referral systems are then easier within the process of having these close relationships. Next slide, Lou. So with regards to psychosocial well-being, we also then have personal and interpersonal well-being in the next slide. And personal and interpersonal well-being looks at working with community organizations quite closely who specialize in the interventions and programs that build the learner beyond the classroom. And I did speak earlier about having community organization as very close partners in the work that we do. So we work with some organizations, for example, like Sanka, Childline, which are all on the slide, Childline, and we work with Hands of Love, and all these organizations attend in various ways with regards to the learner well-being. So in the next slide, the last one is physical wellness. Physical wellness, we're obviously looking at the learner's well-being or wellness in the body. And these programs that will be listed below show working with learners. For example, we have clinics, which are also on the slide, which should be coming up just now. We also look at parent workshops as well. And we also do quite a lot of pregnancy workshops. And the reason we were doing quite a lot of pregnancy workshops, and the reason behind that is that, especially in high schools, pregnancies is a really critical component of something that needs to be attended to just by mere fact of the numbers that are increasing within the community. And in fact, we've actually had to go lower into primary schools because I think of 2018, pregnancy numbers have escalated beyond adolescent numbers within the lower grades. So these are really a critical component as well of working with the learner with regards to physical well-being. In the next slide. So some of the workshops that we do, for example, the picture that you see now and all the pictures that are going to come up now that are going to be put up with Balloon, is that you can see that there's a slide. We do the Sanitary Pad Project because we found that learners a lot of the time don't come to school because they don't have sanitary pads. So we did the Sanitary Pad Project where we had organizations within the community build reusable sanitary pads and underways that can be used with the learners. The top slide there, or the top picture at the top, shows the parental workshops, working very closely with Metro East Education District. Next slide. And with regards with the sessions that we've had with the School's Wellness Center since its session in 2016, as of 2018, this just shows the number of sessions that we've been able to have with the learners per year. And 2020 had to be structured quite differently because of the challenges of COVID and not being able to be physically there with the learners, and also learners themselves not being able to walk into a space that is available for them. And the challenge there was that, we're speaking to learners on the phone. Next slide. Speaking to learners on the phone, and the result of having to change our interventions because of COVID-19. Next slide. The issue was that we had to do a lot of telephonic calls and do a lot of videos. And the challenge there was that the learners would often have to find a space to speak to the social work students and myself, because a lot of the issues they had were actually at home. So the numbers and attending to learners was really challenging. So we had telephonic sessions. We also had YouTube videos which we developed for the learners, and these were just supportive videos for parents, teachers, and learners actually, around also resources where they could get some sort of help in the absence of one-on-one counseling or interventions that are usually readily available at the schools. So, and also Patty also spoke about the my South African pandemic story, and the importance of this particular tool or resource as of coming back to the schools is that we're able to gauge where learners are currently at and able to then see what interventions are needed for learners going forward and how far should interventions go. Because the My Pandemic Story workbook in itself is a way of the learner speaking about their journey during COVID-19. So within that, we were able to distribute some of the books to the primary, we're currently going to be doing a primary school, but we're currently working in 2 high schools. And there you can see Mrs. Fadela Cooper, who is going to be the next speaker in our presentation. And the books have already been implemented at COSAT in one of the schools to do the intervention of gauging learner well-being after COVID-19. So I'll hand back over to Patty, who will then introduce Mrs. Cooper. Thank you.
Thanks, Thembi. I'm not sure, Luke, Mrs. Cooper managed to get on the call, so if you could just confirm her availability. I think she is here. Okay, so we're very excited, Fadela, to have you join us this evening. You've been a partner of the Schools Improvement Initiative ever since the outset in 2013, and you have a relationship going back even before that with Dr. John Clark. So I don't want to monopolize and say too much, but I really just want to acknowledge that so much of the work that we pilot at the SRI in the schools, we first do at COSAT. We spent a whole year piloting the Schools Wellness Centre at COSAT before it was rolled out into the other schools. So really on that note, I want to just thank you for everything that you do with us as a partner, and for us it's a privilege to be working with you. So it's over to you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I must say that I and the school, we are absolutely blessed to have all of these interventions happening at COSAT, because really with our limited budget and with the limited staff, we would not have been able to achieve what all our successes had it not been for the support of partners such as the SII and all of the projects that the SII has introduced at COSAT. Now, Patty and Thembi have spoken a little bit about the background to the COSAT Wellness Centre, but I just want to add that COSAT has been established specifically to ensure that more learners from disadvantaged communities such as Khayelitsha get to go to university. We needed to give them access to university by ensuring that they get the best results. And we have been trying very, very hard to get the quality education to the learners. And so far, I'm proud of the successes of our learners, obviously with the help of everybody else. Now, way back in 2012, when we just moved into our new building the year before, Dr. Patty Silbert came to the school, and she actually spent a whole week just observing the school. After that, she gave us a report about our processes, where we can improve, what we're doing well, and so on and so forth. And based on that observation, and obviously through discussions with various stakeholders, the need for the COSAT Wellness Centre came about, or was very apparent, because teachers are mostly concerned with curriculum delivery. And before the COSAT Wellness Centre, we actually did the work in fact, it's not work, but we had the privilege of assisting learners with the psychosocial support and with the emotional well-being. We were the mothers and fathers at school. With the COSAT Wellness Center, we actually know and trust that we can focus more on curriculum delivery because they are specialists that are able to do that duty on our behalf. And because teachers are not really trained specifically to do that. So we, with great pleasure, we have specialists that are able to assist us and assist the learners with the best possible support in cases of need. But coming back to the very, very start of the COSAT Wellness Center, it wasn't just something that was imposed onto the school. There was a deliberate research project done to determine what the actual needs were of the school and how they should go about in addressing those needs. And so it was a research from the bottom up in terms of what the needs were of the school, and not to tell COSAT learners and parents that we are going to do this for you because we feel that it's good enough for you. It was the other way around. It was where various stakeholders were consulted and the needs were then highlighted and those needs were addressed like that. So and the COSAT Wellness Center is but one of the interventions to assist our learners and teachers at the school. The SII has various interventions, and Patty and Tembi already mentioned them, so I won't go into that again. But the oldest of these interventions is the COSAT Wellness Center, and to see how learners have transformed after going through the process of counseling and of being empowered to help themselves, that is truly amazing. I remember one particular learner who was a very angry child. She was very abrupt with the fellow learners. She just, she couldn't get along with people because of her own baggage. And once she'd gone through the process and realized that all of her fellow learners probably have similar issues than what she's experienced, and she could share so that she could learn that other people also have the pain and the troubles that she is experiencing. And once that sharing took place, she really changed, and she's now one of our leaders in the school. We've also seen where learners who have gone through the process of the counseling with Ms. Zoyana become peer counselors, peer supporters when they go through another process through Childline. And so we've seen how learners transform from ones needing help to the ones who are supporting others and giving help to others in similar situations. So I think that transformation in itself is absolutely amazing. We need to also acknowledge all of the other organizations that are coming into COSAT, community organizations. So now we are, as teachers, as leaders, as learners, and parents, we are exposed to what existing talent and opportunities there are in the community and where we can go for support. Tembi's also mentioned Sanka, Empulweni, Hands of Love. All of these organizations, they support us, and really that is why COSAT can be successful, because our hands are free to do what we do best, and that is teach learners in the class. And if we had to, I don't think there are enough hours in the day to do everything that that the social workers and Tembi, with the programs and projects that she has at the school, put in place. We as teachers would never ever have been able to do that on our own. So really, I need to acknowledge all the hard work that that has gone into the planning and the execution of whatever objectives we put in place for the COSAT Wellness Centre. We do have regular meetings where we have the input of various stakeholders, the education department, the learners, parents, even the school doctor. So it is all part of helping us develop a holistic, the holistic development of the child, where we don't only look at the academic. We know that the academic is what we are there for, but we have all too often realized that if a child is in a class and there are barriers to learning, they are not fine in terms of their health, in terms of their emotional well-being, then they're not going to get the most out of the lesson. So we first need to sort out their mental and emotional and the psychosocial well-being. And that is what I've come to learn from the COSAT Wellness Centre, and I think that the learners also appreciate exactly what the COSAT Wellness Centre allows them to experience and brings out in them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fadila. We really appreciate your inputs, and if I may very briefly just share my screen once more, just to bring our session to a close. I'd like to really thank you, colleagues, friends, for joining us. Thank you to our donors and supporters in the UK. Thank you for your support on behalf of the principals, all of our principals in all of our 9 schools now, on behalf of the teachers, the learners, and of course, the SRI team, Tembi, Karen, Health and Community Coordinator, Diane Hendricks, Language, Nomfundo Mfobo, Grade R, Andrew Peterson, Sciences, Tolisa Mateza, Languages, Sue Brundrick, Maths in the high school, Kashif, Maths in primary schools, Letitia Buerta, Management, and Gilbert Dolo. On behalf of us all, a very big thank you.
Thank you so much, Patty. That was, and all the other speakers as well. It was really a very interesting presentation that I think will definitely provoke some interesting questions, which we'll get to in due course. I will note, though, at this stage, it was particularly pleasing to hear about the My South African Pandemic story, and particularly the role of Jennifer Davids, who is a UK alumnus, and I believe is on the call with us this evening, which is most welcome. Before we get to the questions, we now turn to the 100 Up project speakers. First will be Ferial Parker, the project leader, who will give us a presentation. Then she will interview Fadila Cooper about the impact of the project at COSAT. And after that, she will talk with Andiwe Soviti, a 100 Up student. Over to you now, Ferial.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. As Paul said, I'm Ferial Parker. I'm a life skills education specialist, and I work in the schools development unit at the University of Cape Town. I'm also the project manager of the UCT 100 Up project, which has instantly overnight became a flagship program at the university. So if you can look at my background there, you will see the University of Cape Town, where many of you have studied in your past years. This is the place where many of my students want to be. They all urge me to be there. So just to talk to you a bit about 100 Up, I'm just going to share my screen with you now. Okay, so as the slide says there, the 100 Up project used to be, it started out in 2010, and then it ran on its own, and by 2012 it was included in this SRI. But shortly after that, the project has just expanded, and it was clear that the project needed to stand on its own and run on its own. So this university program is aiming to broaden access to higher education for learners or academically gifted learners in underserved communities. It's quite a straightforward project, and it has the following objectives. Now, why can't I move? Just hold on. So our overview and scope is, we definitely want to address the inequality of opportunity in South Africa. We find that many South African youth cannot or will not attend tertiary institutions for various reasons. And poverty is one of the main reasons that they don't want to go and study further. The project aims to prepare beneficiaries with key academic and life skills for higher education. We want to assist academically gifted learners to compete for places at UCT, which you all know how hard it is to get into, and the entrance qualifications are rising day by day, but also to get them into tertiary institutions across South Africa if they do not make the place at UCT. 100 Up is often used by the university to build institutional knowledge and experience, which can better inform their bridging programs and school-based interventions. 100 Up project speaks directly to the UCT's 2030 vision of school community engagement and outreach, and it contributes to UCT's transformation process. So what is 100 Up all about? We've spoken about academically gifted learners in underserved or disadvantaged communities. So like Patty has mentioned, most of our learners, this is the housing where they come from. There's mainly Black African learners, and in this community of Khayelitsha, there are 20 high schools. Now, whereas SRI work only in 2 high schools, the 100 Up project serve all 20 high schools, irrespective at which level the school is. COSAT is one of our top levels, SARS is one of our top level schools, but we have very, very weak schools in the community. But we still promise to work with learners from those schools. On the border of Khayelitsha, we have Mitchell's Plain, where they are mainly coloured, it's a mainly coloured population, and there are 16 high schools in Mitchell's Plain, and we work with all 16 of them. And just before lockdown, we brought on board the 5 schools in another area on the other border of Khayelitsha, which is called Philippi, and we started out with bringing their learners onto the 100 Up program. So who's our target market? Obviously, 100 Up is all about getting matriculants into tertiary institutions, especially matriculants that never thought of studying further, that never thought beyond the township lines, that never thought beyond the environment where they were born and bred. So we go into the schools and we select these learners together with the teachers. We sit and we have consultation with the teachers, we have interviews with the learners, we have parent meetings to make sure that these are the right learners that we're bringing onto the program. So we choose for 100 Up, we choose 5 learners per school, times the 20 schools in Khayelitsha, and that's where the name 100 Up came from. So we want to take them up and out so that they can fly. The Gilnet group, this came on board half of our first year when we started the project. Because when the word 100 Up went out into the township, many other schools heard and also want to be part of this program. So when we brought on, so the Gilnet learners are normally selected mid-year in their final year of schooling, and they receive a condensed program. But they had to prove that they had the potential to qualify to apply to tertiary institutions. So yes, we brought on board Mitchell's Plain and Philippi, which is another 100 learners in the program. Aren't they lovely, all these kids standing there? Our project implementation happens like this. We make sure that all activities occur at UCT because we feel the academic climate and the exposure cause mind shifts in the learners. They are surrounded by people in libraries, by students sitting outside, students chatting about work and study, and all of this has an impact on them. All our activities take place on Saturdays, during school vacations, and on public holidays, unfortunately for them. We transfer the learners to UCT to bring them out of the gloomy environment. And transport is probably the most expensive part of our program. That's where all the funding goes into, to bus them from Khayelitsha, Mitchell's Plain and Philippi to bring them to Rondebosch, where they can breathe the air. We supply the learners with meals on certain Saturdays and for certain activities. Otherwise, we ask them to bring a sandwich along. When they're at UCT on Saturdays or during school vacations, we try to engage the UCT staff and departments and the whole of the student community. So all of them come on board and come and do activities or come and volunteer and help out with our activities on Saturdays with these learners. We do a lot of exposures with our learners. The UCT Open Day, which is very popular, the annual mathematics competition, where they all participate with 8,000 other learners from other schools, the Girls in Engineering workshops, where they come and enjoy and see what it's like to work in this field. And then we also organize some job shadowing for these learners, so that they get a feel of if it's the correct career that they've chosen to be into. But mainly, the program has 5 components. So component number 1, we call the Saturday School Program. So the aim here is to improve learner academics. Many of these learners coming from these schools hardly make the points to get into institutions. But amongst these learners at these schools, there are these rough diamonds that only need a little bit of support, and then they will make the points to apply to the institutions. So on Saturdays, they will get tuition in gateway subjects such as mathematics, the sciences and languages. And these subjects are taught by reputable teachers from the ex-Model C schools or from the better schools in other areas. So there you will see, this is a Saturday class, and there you have a volunteer coming in. There's another volunteer down there, and there's some more here at the back. And then the tutor also moves around and gives the much needed assistance that they need. This is a mathematics session. Another component, and probably the most popular component, is the residential camps. Here we expose the learners to UCT as a tertiary institution. We want them to experience life and study as a university student, something that many of them haven't even dreamed of. So then, when they come to UCT, they live in the university residences, the old Fuller and Smuts and college house that some of you might know. We engage the whole of the university to come and talk to them. For example, the admissions office will come and talk to them about how to apply. Accommodation office will come and talk to them about what it's like to live in residence. Financial aid will come and say what marks they must get to get financial aid. And the students thoroughly enjoy living at the university. We also have a second camp, especially for the grade 12s, which is at an off-campus site. In this camp, here, we focus completely on preparation for the finals. So there you can see the university's exposure, but also what is very lovely is the university opening its doors for these learners from the underserved communities. Our third component is what we call the enrichment activities or the workshops. Here we aim to develop knowledge and skills. So the learners will get involved with faculty departmental sessions, where faculties will get the final year students or even the lecturing staff to come out and show learners what is happening in these, for example, the labs, how to build reservoirs. And in the process, they gain careers education, but most importantly, The shy learners are getting confidence. You know how hard it is for them to come up in front and to present something. But just give them a couple of months in the program and then we can't even get them to stop. But they thoroughly enjoy that. Yeah, in our last photograph there, that's the job shadowing program which we collaborated with one of the UCT student bodies who get the learners into the EBE, the engineering environment, to go find out what it's like to be part of this career field. A fourth component of our program is the coaching and the mentoring. Here, the learners are given a lot of advice and guidance from UCT staff. How to make the right career decision, what is important, how do you manage time, you know, and especially the ones who've gone through the program give the best advice and support, because they're the ones who can tell the others, you can't come up with any excuse because I come from where you come from. So therefore, it depends on you. Here you can see some of our ex-students engaging with our learners and talking them through. Here we have some tutors coming in to coach them. Here we have some lecturing staff. That's Professor Webb for all those of you who've been part of mathematics, doing small group math study with the learners. We expose them to all other kinds of activities to get them to understand what tertiary studies is all about. And last but not least of our components is when we assist the learners to find and fund their way into higher education. We all know to study is very, very, very expensive. We also know to get into UCT, for example, is very, very difficult. So we spend a lot of time helping them to apply to not only UCT, but to other institutions, because everyone is not made for UCT. So we help them to apply to the different institutions. We also help them to source and find financial aid and to do the applications. And especially now with COVID, you know, the learners have learned and, you know, are on the way to doing the self-online applications. So those are the 5 components in our program. With COVID-19, we realized that face-to-face interactions cannot happen any longer. And up to complete our program for the year, we will have to wait until UCT gives us permission to go back and to, you know, it will obviously be under strict COVID regulations. But for now, this is what we've done. We've liaised with schools to give more time, to secure more time for our learners in the school's computer labs. So our learners will sit after school and do some work that I've uploaded for them and then engage with the other students or the tutors who are online. We liaise with the parents so that every learner can have a smartphone, because on a monthly basis we purchase data for them and we upload information for them. We've asked all our teacher tutors to prepare lesson packs for the learners, which we upload once a week at a certain time, and then the learners have time to work through these lesson packs, and at the end of the week they come together, and on the WhatsApp group they will engage with the tutors and with the peers at specific times to talk through the lessons and the problems that they are experiencing. I obviously, as project manager, have to monitor this engagement with the tutors, between the tutors and the learner. We have, on our WhatsApp group, we've also promoted this pedagogy of care, because we know some schools are very good and things happen quite easily, but there are many schools where things do not happen as swiftly as we want. So we've asked our learners, and we're trying to develop a culture of building the youth to assist one another. And it is absolutely amazing how these students, I control the WhatsApp, I monitor what they talk and chat about, and I can see how they assist one another. And my heart is full when I see these things. As a life skills education specialist, I also provide the ongoing psychosocial support and counseling to learners in need. Now, the SRI, Patty and Tembi, they do it at 2 of our high schools, but I do it in the other 18 schools if the learners cannot manage to attend the course at Wellness Center. We've added a new component to our project in our way forward. And what we call the 100 plus first year experience. People, you must please understand, when we call them 100 up, it means they are still at school. When we call them 100 plus, It means they've entered an HEI or tertiary institution and they're now students. What we found out over the years was that even though we've exposed them to so many things and tried to prepare them, it's a different situation when you land at UCT, for example, for the first time. It's extremely challenging for these students to fit in. Number one, they've got the language barrier. It's Xhosa is their first language, and the language of instruction at UCT is English. You know, there's also the different cultures. There's the sudden independence, and our learners find it very, very difficult to socialize and to fit in. And me having an office at UCT is not a good thing, because we're in my office almost all the time of the day. So this year we're including this program, and this is what we will do for them. We will provide the crucial assistance and support with settling in at UCT. You will be amazed how learners struggle to find accommodation, to settle in, to find out if their finances are in order, to find out if they've chosen the correct courses or the correct stream of study. So in cases like that, I link the students to academic mentors or to key staff and units on campus that will contribute to their holistic development as scholars, academically and socially. We also link the first years, the 100 of first years, to the UCT student mentor. So for example, the group that's coming in next year will be mentored by the groups who are there already. And they are the 100 pluses. And I always call them the big brothers and the big sisters. And they've got to take care of the younger ones. We will run essential workshops, developmental workshops for them, like the digital literacy, mathematics bridging, VULA, you know, writing skills, accessing the library resources and so forth. These might sound very simple when you come to UCT, but for our learners who's never been exposed, who've never had opportunities to engage with such things, it becomes crucial that they get assistance in those. We provide individual counseling even when necessary. And I think all of this is very, very important for throughput. The 100 plus students, as you see on the side here, they are always volunteering in program activities, and they become the mentors to the upcoming groups, always willing and able to assist us. Impact. Now, this is a question that I'm asked quite often. What is the impact of 100 at UCT? So we definitely saw the enrollment to UCT from these underserved communities has increased remarkably, and it's directly due to this project. I don't want to sound vain or brag, but I've seen it. Before the project started, I just want to bring you down to the notes in red. Before the project started in 2010, there were only 29 students from Khayelitsha coming to UCT. In 2014, 110 offers were made to these students to come to UCT. 79 of them accepted the offer. And there we go, you can see that there. So the first cohort entered in 2014 to UCT and also to other institutions across South Africa. Obviously, the students will select the institution that offers their first choice of study. For example, Anda definitely wanted to do medicine, but UCT offered him as his first choice science. So Anda unfortunately went to Wits University, but he still keeps in touch with us. Our students are mainly on extended programs, which obviously we all know how difficult it is. I'm an alumni from UCT as well. It was extremely difficult because I grew up under apartheid, and you know, it was just a different world when I was at UCT. By 2019 already, from the first 3 groups, 115 students have graduated already, and many more have graduated from other institutions. We've seen a definite mind shift among students due to the academic climate that they find themselves in at UCT, but also at other institutions. They speak academically, they speak the language, the university lingo. We find that some of our students return for postgrad studies, and we'll introduce it to one later on. But we also find that students from other institutions apply to UCT to come and do some postgrad studies. All our graduates stay in touch on Facebook and WhatsApp, and they always return to give back to their community. On the right side of my screen, you will see how we've gone through the program. You can see how many of them have enrolled to UCT. And and to other HEIs, and our rate of success is fluctuating between 80 and 90%, which is, for me, that is quite good, because if you think, many of these learners have never thought about studying further because there are some other critical issues at home that needs to be looked after. But just to convince them and to cause this mind shift, to teach them that there's life after Matric. You know, you don't have to lay at home, or you don't have to go and work, find a job that will give you little pay. You can go and study, and we look after you from there. All our students, once they enter UCT, they are assured accommodation, and they are assured of financial aid once they enter UCT. Here are some of our success stories. There you have Zimi. Zimi completed her MPhil at UCT in 2020. She's been overseas. She's attended so many webinars this year. She's attended so many conferences overseas. And Zimi has just, she's blossomed from this young, shy girl that she was in 2010, 2011, into this fine young lady who's on her way to become an academic. On the other side, we have Tefelo, who's completed his MBCHB at UCT and is currently doing his final year of medical internship at a rural hospital in UKZN, where his parents are coming from. We are so, so proud of them. You might ask, why are we successful? Why are we successful? I believe we are successful because we have a committed and very passionate staff. You must love young people. You must be interested in young people if you want to be on this program with me. I think our program is very firm and it's consistent, although we do change every year, here and there. We tweak the program a bit to suit the needs of the learners that we get. But there's a consistency in our program. As Patty and Tembeka mentioned up earlier, we have sound relationships with our education districts who've given us permission to go into the schools to access results when we want to select learners. We also have very, very good relationships with all 20 principals in the schools. We report to them regularly about what's happening to the learners, and often we do presentations to the education districts. Our learners and parents sign a member of understanding. When they get onto the program, we hold them accountable. We tell them, you are where many students want to be, and therefore you need to be committed to this program. We show them, if you don't want to perform or if you're slacking, we will replace you. And we find out that that works with learners. You know, they need to know. They're in a very privileged position. We follow them through up until the first year in the institution. We're also building a long-lasting family at UCT, but also at the other institutions. I always say the rough diamonds are polished to take their place in society. And our motto throughout the program is, you've got to go and give back. You've got to pay it forward. And those who've graduated have done so. I'd like now to do some interviews with the principal, Valdila Cooper, and then with one of my star beneficiaries of the program, Andy Seaway. So can I go back to Valdila? How do I do that, Luna? Sorry. I just have to check. What do I do now to do the interviews? Luna?
Stop sharing your screen.
Okay, so I need to stop sharing my screen, which is, there we go. All right, thank you. So I'm going to speak to Valdila first. Valdila, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Valdila, once again, thank you for always opening your doors to 100 up when we come and knocking. And thank you for being so progressive, you know. As a principal, and yeah, as a principal at COSET, I know you're in a very privileged, one of the most privileged school buildings that you have right now. But as a principal, what does success mean to you?
For me, success is when somebody reaches their full potential and is in a happy space while they are getting there, you know, when it's a well-rounded person and they have achieved their dreams. A little bit of struggle along the way is also a nice mix to the recipe.
Mm-hmm. It's a learning curve for them, right? Yeah. Now, so have you seen some of 100 uppers successful?
Just repeat that again.
Have you, do you have some of our 100 uppers from your school? Or do you know some of them that have been successful?
Yes, there are quite a number of them. You've just mentioned Wantefelo. He's one of our students. Yes.
Oh, well done.
Yes, our learners come back and they are absolutely ecstatic about the care that they have received at UCT. And there are so many of them because I think they are a bit, the word is forward, you know, they're very, they want to be heard and they want to be seen. So they will make use of all the opportunities that are given to them. Yeah. So I'm absolutely very proud of their achievements as well.
Thank you for that. So in a way, they are coming to give back to the school.
Yes.
And in the community. Yeah, I must say the students from COSAT are very, very on the ball, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking of we had one child, Namhla Juku, who in 2015 was actually recognized by the Minister of Education for being one of the top learner from a township school, a level 3, a quintile 3 school, and she was also one of the 100 up learners. So there are quite a number of success stories, and I don't want to, you know, there are too many to mention, because it's not only the ones that have landed big jobs. It's the ones that are happy within themselves and happy with what they have achieved, and they are mostly the ones who come back and asked to assist our learners with classes, and also at UCT giving back to the students there as well.
So the impact of the project at your school, would you say the project had an impact at your school?
Definitely a positive impact. You know, you and Patty have so eloquently described the situation that our learners come from. You've shown the pictures. Our learners come from very, very poor backgrounds, and for them, growing up in poor households means that priority would be for basic necessities. So they wouldn't grow up with books around them, with computers and laptops and tablets around them, and so on. So when they get to us at high school, they already have a backlog, you know, and the 100 Up project helps us to fill the gaps so that they can achieve. And so all of us work together in order to get these learners to become successful.
Thank you for that, Valdila. So definitely the project has an impact at your school. I just want to move over to Andisiwe. Hello, Andisiwe. Nice to see you there. Can you hear me? Just give me a wave.
Yes, I can hear you. Hello, hello, everyone.
Yeah, hi. Andisiwe was one of our students it's gone through the program. Andisiwe, give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Okay, so I'm from Kailicha, and I'm the first generation at home to go to university. I am currently doing my postgraduate certificate in education, and I did my undergrad at UCT, majoring in psychology, social development, and language. So I was one of the 100 Up students since grade 10 to grade 12, and then I went to UCT, and throughout the project I've been hands-on in the program. So I've been like the students who has gotten the help from the program, and it was really helpful for me to begin with. When I was in grade 8 and 9, I knew that I knew that I was capable of performing academically. However, I never had like the academic free mindset that at some point in my life I have to go to higher institutions for education. All I knew is that I need to obtain my grade 12 certificate, and then so I can get a job, so I can support my family, so I can do like a lot of things, considering like the environment in which I grew from, like the environment that I'm currently growing up from. So there are a lot of factors that are at play, and when it comes to academics and academic excellency, we tend to be ignorant of that. We only pay particular attention to being financially able to provide for the family, financially assisting the family, and at some point we tend to be ignorant and neglect our own needs. So being part of the program sort of gave me a mind shift in that. It gave me a different academic climate. It made me realize like there's more to success other than having to obtain that Matric certificate. You go to university, you are exposed to different opportunities, to new opportunities, and for that you can grow much bigger and more than that you were set or you limited yourself to. And in that instant, I realized that, okay, I can even do much bigger things for my family, not only to provide for them financially, but to also like to set a layout, to be the example, to be the role model, some of the members from the community, for some of my schoolmates, some of my sisters. In fact, I am a role model from my sisters. I'm a last born at home. I am a first generation to go to university, but I am a role model to even my mother, because they look back and they say that we never got to have that opportunity. So for them to see one of their own having that opportunity is quite amazing. So they they somehow wish that they could stop time and they could go back and amend a few things about themselves. So it has given me that platform to feel proud. It has given me that platform to actually realize my potential, my capabilities, and not only be limited to the environment that I'm growing up on, but to sort of explore other domains, to go back and tap in all the different possibilities that are available for me. So the program was really helpful in that sense. And being part of it, it did not only came as to groom me academically. It made me realize the importance of social relations. It made me realize the importance of emotional and psychological stability. It made me realize a lot of things, not only about myself, but making the differences between the communities in which I had to experience. Being at Khayelitsha and being at UCT was like a different transition for me. And I don't want to lie, I enjoyed being at UCT more than I did when I'm at home, because the environment, the space and everything, it's completely different. And for that, it made me long to achieve. It made me long to set my goals. It made me long to ensure that I continually strive to be successful, so that in the future, I actually build that home, the home that is similar to UCT, for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my community, and the ones that surround me. So in that sense, the program is very productive, and it sets to ensure that it meets their aims. It meets it actually gets to do what it aims to do. So in that sense, like it does not only give me a sense of being academically free and academically realizing, but in that it's like hands-on to its students. It does not say, okay, you're part of 100 Up program now because you are academically capable, but it is hands-on. Like it pushes us to be the students that we are. It monitors our results, it monitors our attendances, it monitors our engagement, result, application. It sort of helps us. Miss Parker, I know her from grade 10 and I still know her this day, because she was like, 100 Up learners, this, like she constantly reminded us, reminded us of the purpose of the program and what are the outcomes that we are ought to get. And in that sense, she made a relationship. I don't know how much she realizes the impact that she's made to all of us, the students, because the impact, it's like the mind shift, most importantly, the mind shift. Because for me, I never knew that I would be holding a degree right now in my life. All I knew is that get a job, pass your matric, get a job, get married, and that's the life you live. But now I'm actually beyond that, and I wish somehow in my point in my life that I could create something that's special and so good as this program to other members. Hence, I constantly become like a mentor. I volunteer to the program on weekends so that I can engage to the learners. And engaging with the learners is very important, and I find it very appealing and very good because I tend to create a relationship with them because they relate to me and I relate to them. We understand each other because we share a common background. We come from the same communities. We come from the same gloomy, deprived, like communities. So those environments, sharing that ideas, and they see me as a role model, and I'm able to encourage them. I am able to advise them, and they understand me because they know, like, they have no excuse other than saying, okay, I know you, I've seen you. And for instance, I have good relationships with one of the, not only one, like most of the 100 students that I tend to be a mentor with them during Saturdays and on the camps. So I have a relationship. They call me, they text me via Facebook, via WhatsApp, those who have my number. They ask questions like, even now during lockdown, I've seen some of them, they were worried what's going to happen since they can't do the Saturday things anymore. But I always tell them, like, you need to be hopeful. You know that Ms. Parker, the program is going to make a plan. So I kept on trying to be motivational to encourage them because that's what we do. So being introduced in this, it sort of created a second family for me, a family that supported my dreams, a family that knew like a different side that my family didn't know, because most of township and Black families, they don't really supportive when it comes to academics. They not support their children. The only thing that I could say, it might sound wrong, but they sort of suck out whatever they have. So in that sense, having a second family that supported me, it felt so good. It did not only supported me during my high school years, it has been supporting me since now, because I've made friends from the program and friends that we understand each other. So the program is very good, and it creates a sense of belonging. It creates a sense of knowing yourself. It creates also your sense of, okay, I'm in the right direction. So each time we feel like we've lost hope, we reunite, we encourage each other, and we sort of trace back where we come from and all that, and then we realize we've come too far. We're here now, we've achieved a lot throughout that path, and yet we are about to achieve more. So all we need is to be strong and to be intact. So this program is not just more than a program to sort of secure like the academics of children or learners from the disadvantaged communities in Khayelitsha, but it sort of creates a home, like a psychologically enabling home, an emotionally encouraging home, a physically motivating home, and it's a home that we Black people in general long for. So it has given us like a sense of belonging, a sense of knowing ourselves. Hence I am constantly, and I try as much to give back to it, and because I know how much it has impacted me, and I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity to speak about it. I haven't in a lot of while, and I feel a bit emotional right now, but I am grateful to be given the opportunity, because the program is really helping a lot, and I would love for it to continue for years and years. As much as it might be difficult because of sponsors and everything, but given the chance, I would be if that person who sponsors it, because I know how impactful it is. So the continual support that these children are getting from the program is very important. We should not underestimate the power of that. And thank you, Mrs. Parker, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Can you now see? When Auntie Siri was in grade 10, I couldn't get her to open her mouth. Now I can't get her to stop talking. That's how confident she's become. Auntie Siri probably will be teaching in a year's time at one of the schools in the township, or Well, she's already qualified with a degree, and pretty soon she'll walk away with a teacher's degree as well. So thank you for that. Let me just share my screen with you guys again, just to finish off. Where is it? There we go. So guys, before I say thank you, no, there's one before that. So by funding the UCT 100-Up project, the alumni will contribute in making a significant change at the exit level of South African schooling in underserved and marginalized schools in the Western Cape. The project has made noteworthy strides in the learners' lives. You've heard it from Andy Siwe and also from the principal and the communities they come from. And it's a tangible example of how UCT is opening barriers to access for talented minds. So I think with this, I'd like to say thank you. But before I say that thank you, I just want to say to the alumni, the project needs the funds to run. But there are different components that can be funded by different people. So please think about it when you think of 100-Up. Thank you very much. Let me just...
Thank you very much, Ferial and others. That was extremely interesting and most powerful testimony from Andy as well. We have received a few questions, which we can run through in the allotted time, which is actually quite short. The first one, I think, should go to Patty. And the question is, Patty, how do you measure the success of different SII interventions apart from learner performance in Matric and systemic tests?
Thanks, Paul. So apart from those quantitative measures of success, we like to look qualitatively of the opportunities and affordances that the SII interventions have offered to our learners and to the teachers. So what I mean by that is that what the library affords and allows is opportunities for young people to access books. So we look at these things qualitatively and quantitatively. Each intervention, and you heard about quite a spectrum of them, will have its own objectives and its own baselines. And it is against those objectives that the intervention will measure its success. So the library project, on a monthly basis, each of our library assistants in all of our schools submit monthly reports with the number of books that have been rented out. We like to see what the patterns are. We immediately are able to monitor the rentals of books, whether they drop, whether they increase. If they drop, we're able to intervene. In the case of Tembi and the school's wellness center, which is now about to be operational in 9 schools, Tembi has a very, very close monitoring system. She's able to see month on month how many consultations have taken place, and where there are increased consultations, she's able to intervene. When it comes to teacher professional development, there again would be a host of ways of measuring success. For example, how many teachers participated in a short course? What does the nature of the print-rich environment of the class look like? What shifts have been seen in the way that teachers teach? They understand concepts as compared with pre-intervention. So with my South African pandemic story, if Jennifer's still on the call, she will know that at the back of the book, we have a UCLA instrument for measuring success, measuring the impact of this intervention on the learners prior to them completing the workbooks and again afterwards. So with each intervention, Paul, it is absolutely essential that we measure the impact and success depending on the needs and objectives of the intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. This is one I think that for Ferial, I think you probably answered it with that very helpful slide, but the question was about student support once the learners get to university, and we talked about 100-Up Plus, which takes care of premium UCT, but not elsewhere. And the question goes on to ask about throughput success rate and I assume that means over the career of your 100 Up students. Do you monitor that, and is there anything you'd like to add to what was on the slide in this regard?
Okay, so with regards to throughput from schools, we monitor that, and we, as I've shown, our success rate range between 80 and the 90%. And there are various reasons why it fluctuates, but we understand and we deal with it, especially schools have lost teachers and learners have issues, so there's a fluctuation. With regards to throughput at the university, that initially was the university's task to get to see to throughput. So in the past, when our first groups arrived at UCT, they were very fortunate to have a unit on campus, CHED, Center for Higher Education, who took charge of them within the first year and held their hands during the first year to see that everything went well. Unfortunately, the funding dried up, and the unit couldn't handle the first year, the 100 Up Plus program any longer. So the 100 Up Pluses then merged with the university's first year experience program. But little do they realize that these learners coming from these disadvantaged communities have different challenges to those coming from the better schools and from other countries and from affluent societies. So for that reason, many learners have walked in and out of my office since the CHED program has dried up. And that's why we've now included it in our program, just to hold their hand for the first year. And from there onwards, they will have enough support from the other 100 Up Pluses, and they will be used to the university and know where to go to. So that's what we can offer for the 100 Up Pluses and the 100 Uppers. Thank you.
Thanks so much. We have some more questions, but I'm afraid we are near the end of our allotted time, so we're going to save those for next time. There definitely will be a next time, because this is a program. These are two programs that are dear to the hearts of the UK alumni. It's been so good to get the latest news of these two initiatives that so well exemplify the quest for social involvement and civic engagement that is a very important part of the UCT Vision 2030 program. It's also extremely clear to us how dedicated, enthusiastic and energetic Patty, Thembi and Ferial are, and it's no doubt very much due to their efforts that these programs are so successful. So thank you for that. Testament to the success from Fadila and Andy has been very powerful, and we're so pleased to have them join us this evening. I think several of us will follow Andy's career with great interest, and I'm sure it's going to be a great success. Now, these programs need to be funded by gifts and grants, and in the past, UK alumni have made major contributions. The coming years are going to be particularly financially challenging at UCT, and at a time when the stresses from the pandemic are only going to increase the need for the interventions that these programs provide. I hope that as an alumni group, we'll be able to continue our record of significant contributions, either by way of the annual appeal, which will come out in the ordinary course in the next couple of months, but otherwise on a special ad hoc basis. And in this regard, if anyone wants to contact Angela about this, she'll be happy to assist. So thank you very much to all our Cape Town-based participants and to the Department of Development and Alumni, the DAD at UCT, and the technical staff who got us through this without major glitches, for which we're most grateful, and also to Angela for organizing this event. Thank you too very much for our alumni for showing such an interest in these programs. We look forward to the future events when we'll be able to meet and socialize in person. Good night.